The universe will also demand that you become a top-level salesman. You know, when you set up those ads and those coaching calls are coming to you, you want to be able to close at least 33% of that, okay? Because it's going to be very hard for you to scale if your close rate's 10%. And if your close rate's 10%, you're probably targeting the wrong people, or you have a major flaw with your ability to close. So you're going to need that as well. You're going to need to study that. You're going to need to keep using the latest technology. You're going to need to, have a consistent flow of leads. You're going to need good people on your team that you actually trust to handle a lot of the back end work. And it might be a situation of you might have to give up the next couple years of your life to get there, okay? Which is what the guys doing 200, 300,000 aren't willing to do. They're not willing to pay the price that the universe demands to get to 2 mil, right? Not to mention you've got shit like COVID going on, right? Where the universe goes, oh, on top of all the business shit, deal with this. Lucky my business has continued to survive and thrive during that, and so has my clients, but man, did that hurt a lot of businesses, especially your traditional bricks and mortar businesses, okay? And that price was too high for a lot of guys. They weren't willing to keep going through that. They shut down, they closed up shop and quit, you know? And maybe you have a health problem at some point. So not only do you need, is your energy lower, right? But you need to go ahead and get treatment for that. So that's an additional charge. And it's been 3-4 years ago since you asked the universe for that $2 million, and you're still being tested. And you go back and ask, like, at what point do I get this thing, right? And the answer is when the universe feels like giving it to you. When the universe feels like you've passed enough tests to be able to sit at the top of the mountain and breathe that rarefied air, you know? In the same way that climbing the Mount Everest, there's gonna be a lot of fucking tests on the way up, you know? You're halfway there, you're exhausted, you're tired, you can't see straight. I mean, I can't imagine anybody who's climbed that mountain hasn't questioned whether they should just go back down because they're tired and they're scared and they're whatever. Okay, so fear and your own doubt and the narrative in your head is often the biggest test. The mental narrative comes up after a couple losses or something like COVID, like, man, can I do this? Am I fit for this? Am I really this guy? So you have to be willing to ignore that and release all those thoughts and stay on track. Because don't forget, that's a part of the test, and that's probably the biggest one, you know, which is kind of just allowing the devil, you can think of it that way. You know, in the Bible, they say the devil is the voice that accuses, and his legions to test you and whisper in your ear that you're not good enough and that you don't deserve it and you're not doing enough and you're never going to make it, so why don't you quit? Okay? Make no mistake, that voice is evil and that voice is a test. It's a test to see if you've got what it takes to make it. If you've got what it takes to pass that universe test, man. Another test is the fairness test. You'll see guys who have really quick success versus you, where you feel like it's been taking you longer to get there. I had one of my clients dealing with this, and it's not fair. But you know what? That's just another test. Okay? Because everything comes from the universe. Everything comes from God. For some people, he gives it to them faster. And for some people, he makes them suffer for it longer. Right? But that's how it goes, man. So, whining or being upset about it being unfair or easier for someone else, not only does that not get you to your goal quicker, it gets you to your goal further, because you're projecting the energy of ungratefulness and you're projecting the energy of anger and frustration, which aren't winning emotions, as opposed to looking at all the things that you have and all the blessings that you have as compared to other people. There are people with AIDS right now. There are people with cancer. There are people that can't walk. There are people that have COVID. There are people with all kinds of health problems and conditions, right? You're only looking at, somebody who had it a bit easier than you did, as opposed to all the benefits that you have to already get to having 6 figures, or wherever it is you're at. Maybe you're at 7 figures, but you feel you deserve 8 figures. Or the goal we're talking about is your body, and the obstacles are your mental narrative, your identity, the fact that food is your comfort, and you're deep in a diet and you see, shit, this is really painful, this is really restricting. Do I still want this, right? And those are your obstacles. But you really see it in my opinion, in business, because I think that's the longest goal to achieve. That's the hardest goal to achieve. To me, the physique goal is 100 times easier than the business goal, because the business goal requires, you can get a 4-pack in 2 months, if you're just a little bit overweight, or 3 months. The business thing requires years of study and years of application and years of obsession and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the real one where you're really being tested, okay? And if you want a practical application of this, just write down right now on a piece of paper the goal that you want. Let's say your business goal, the real goal, right? Or your net worth goal. You want a net worth of $3 million. And then think about the guy that has $3 million, or think about yourself when you have $3 million, and think, what will the universe demand? Or if you're looking backwards, what will the universe have demanded of me that I'm not currently doing to get to that level? Okay? You're going to see mentorship. You're going to see probably harder work and smarter work, probably increased study and knowledge of marketing and sales, or outsourcing to the best marketing and sales, ads guys. Okay? Definitely an increase in spending on your business. This is where most guys fuck up. To get to the success levels you want, you're probably going to have to be reinvesting, anywhere from 30 to 70% of your income each year, okay, back into the business. That was a mistake that I made. You might have to control those lifestyle leaks, or you might even have to move from a high tax country like Australia to Asia, where there's territorial tax, and you're legally a non-resident of Australia, so legally no longer liable for the 40% tax you'd be paying in Australia, and the 5x amount of expenses that it would cost to live in Australia versus, say, Thailand or the Philippines. Okay, for the guys that eventually, I lived for a long time in Asia and I'll be going back there, but I've noticed that the guys who stay out there, most guys go home, by the way, but the guys who really stay out there at some point, it's primarily for the reason of business. You calculate how much it would cost to go back and live at home, and you're looking at a $200,000 increase or more. It's just insanity. Okay, so that might be required of you in at least the first 4 years or whatever to, if your goal, let's say you have $150,000 net worth and you want to be worth $4 million 5 years from now, you know that you need to double your net worth each year compounded, right? So we double from 150 or 170 to 340, and then we double that. To be able to double in those first couple of years, we need every dollar that we can to be able to reinvest in the business. And that might require moving out of a high tax country into a territorial tax country, becoming resident, handling the visas, spending less money, and then keeping expenses down to 3K, and dumping that 17 grand that you're making, that, if you scale up to 20 grand a month, dumping 17 grand, dumping 95% of what you make back into your business, so that, and then aggressively advertising where you get a 3x return, and then that's probably going to get worse over time into a 2x return. Okay, but because you're dumping so much money back into that business, you're able to double your net worth every year, and you're able to hit that aggressive net worth goal that you're looking at. So I hope that was clear to you. One thing that I do with my clients, and it's something I do in the How to Get Organized book, and it's something I'll flesh out even more in the upcoming courses. You know, set your success goals for this year. Set an income goal and set a net worth goal, and then set an income goal for where you want to be at the end of the decade and a net worth goal where you want to be at the end of the decade, and adjust it for inflation. Adjust it to the USD 2020 inflation prices. So if you're 33, set the goal for where you want to be at 40 in terms of your net worth and in terms of your income. And then backwards engineer that and say, do I really want this goal? If the answer is yes, then say, what would the universe demand of me that I'm not doing right now? And the answers will come to you fast and furious, because in your subconscious, you're gonna know the things that you're not doing, okay? And then it has to become painful enough for you to take action. Be like, man, do I really want this? Is it really painful enough, you know, not having a couple mil in the bank? And if it is, you're gonna find that it's really easy to take action.